All right, when it comes to taking control of your life, are you taking the right approach? Maybe the secret is to look beyond yourself.
Well, Steve Farber is telling people just that in his new book. It's called Greater Than Yourself, and he's here now to share some secrets of true leadership. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Your book is really like heretical, I think.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because in the modern American workplace today, it's look out for yourself.
Me.
Be protective.
Yes.
Me.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, you're right. I think it's the context of work that makes this a bit heretical, a bit, provocative, maybe. The whole idea here, of course, is that the greatest leaders, and this goes for any human being, any decent human being, but really people in leadership positions, and it's a little counterintuitive for some people, the greatest leaders are the ones that focus on making others greater than themselves, as opposed to looking out for themselves.
So pass on your secrets.
They boost, pass on your secrets.
But at the same time, don't you need to somehow tout yourself so people know you're the one doing this?
Yeah, sure. Well, not necessarily, because you get a track record. I mean, if you get the rep, if you get the credibility that's based on creating superstars, you don't have to ask for that attention. People know, and it is the context of work that makes it challenging, because we get it. We get it in other contexts, right? I mean, we get it as parents.
Right.
Parents want their kids to grow up to have lives that are better than theirs. Teachers get this. I mean, the greatest accomplishment for, say, an 8th grade teacher is to see one of their students grow up and win the Nobel Prize someday, right? They're still in 8th grade, teaching class, but those are their
Another
logs.
analogy, you're a guitar player, I see, and
they're bonding over this.
Yeah.
You know that when you come upon a hero or somebody you really admire, if they're willing to show you their hot licks or something like that, you have this tremendous appreciation of them. If they're very protective and they want to keep that as like a trademark secret, you think, oh, that guy's not as cool as I thought he was.
Yeah, and the whole field of music, of course, is filled with stories of people that have these incredible mentor kind of relationships. And what I'm advocating for here is it's a similar thing, but it's kind of mentoring on steroids, right? Because we use the word mentor kind of loosely. We use it in the context of, I'm going to help you, I'm going to, every now and then I'll sit down with you and give you a pat on the back and some words of encouragement. What I'm suggesting here is that we really do give our trade secrets, our contacts, our connections, our knowledge fully, but to the right person.
Steve, that's good, but you kind of read my mind there. It's risky. I mean, there are evil people wherever you work that just kind of want to steamroll past you and want to get ahead. So I guess you need to pick that person, do you say? You
have to choose that person wisely, because you're right, it is a risk, and of course anything worth doing is there's going to be some risk involved, right? But let's say, the worst case scenario, you take somebody on, as I refer to it as your GTY, your greater than yourself project, so to speak.
Okay.
You take somebody on as your GTY project, and they end up using that to your disadvantage. They stab you in the back in some way. They manipulate the situation, and they hurt you in the process. That doesn't mean that the intent was bad. It doesn't mean that your action was wrong. It means that you didn't choose very well.
Wrong person.
Yeah, exactly. And you learn from that, and you move on, and you go and you try to find the right person next time.
One of the great sadnesses in my business for me now, I always, as a young reporter or anchor, there were always guys or women in the newsroom who I really looked up to. They were older and more experienced than me, and I always admired them, and I said, I want to learn to be like that person, whatever. Now I'm the old Barrett himself.
He said it.
That way, doesn't it?
And I miss having people to look up to. I
but
really miss that.
But this is your opportunity, Doug. I mean, is there anybody out there in this newsroom that you can take on as your GTY project? Somebody that you can invest in the way that you had always hoped that somebody would do for you when you were starting out. Because, on the surface it sounds like an altruistic kind of an act, but the return on this, I mean, what comes back to the person who's taking on the GTY project is you can't measure that.
You know what I think it really matters is if you had such good GTY treatment growing up. When whatever your business you were in, whatever education, whatever high school, whoever you looked up to, did you have that person that nurtured you? If you didn't, it's hard for people to find that inside them to give it back.
It is, but you could also argue that for some people, because they never had that, they want to make sure that they provide it to somebody else. I mean, you can respond to anything in any number of ways, and there's all kinds of places to find motivation, and there's all kinds of places to make excuses, right? And my point of view is that leadership's not about your position, it's not about your title, it's not about what it says on your business card or where you sit on a company's organizational chart. It's about who you are. and what you do. So if you haven't had this kind of an example in your own life, if you haven't been on the receiving end of this, then start setting the example for other people in the way that you take people on.
I'm curious how people react to this in, say, a leadership seminar or in some sort of a management seminar where people go away. Have you taken this book to those kinds of gatherings, and how do people react to it? Because as I said at the start here, it does seem almost a little bit heretical to most people's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, you know, that's my life's work. That's what I've been doing for 20 years, is working with companies in just about every kind of industry. You know, anything from speaking to conducting workshops to consulting and coaching. And yeah, you know, the thing is, it's a challenge in the context of work, but the response that I've been getting to this is, I have to admit, surprisingly positive. In other words, it doesn't get rejected out of hand. Because the bottom line is, am I an idealist? Maybe a little bit. I admit to that. But I'm not naive. I'm a business guy, right? So I wouldn't be challenging people to do this if I hadn't seen over and over again that these are the people that end up being the most successful.
And it can be done. Do you think people aren't doing it because it's a me, selfish kind of world, or I just don't have enough time?
I think it's probably a combination of the two, and I also think that our conditioning tells us that in the world of work, in business or wherever it is that we go to collect the paycheck, so to speak, it's kind of a zero-sum game. That my success is somehow predicated on your not being as successful as I am, or maybe even on your failure. We've been conditioned to believe that, and it's just false. It's not true. It's an illusion.
Is there a spiritual component to this? We're out of time. Just as the profound question.
Profound question.
It's like, you know, it is better to give than to receive. Is really what you're saying here.
It's very closely related to the golden rule, which exists in every culture on the planet, and not one of those versions from any culture has a little asterisk next to the words with a footnote at the bottom of the page that says does not apply Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 to 5 or in any situation where a paycheck is involved. So let's hold ourselves accountable to our own words, the words that we say we believe in.
On that note, we got to go. Steve Farber, the name of the book is Greater Than Yourself. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It is heretical, but man, it's really refreshing.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.